What's up, guys? This is Manafest. Welcome to another I'm a Fighter podcast. This is episode number 11.
It's too late, it's my fate, I can't turn around. There's no fear in the mirror to hold me down.
What up? What is going on in your world? Welcome back. This is Manafest, the I'm a Fighter podcast where we want to entertain, inspire, and educate. Super stoked to be in the studio. Your response again and all your comments and reviews, thank you so much. So many more people are finding this and getting encouraged. If you haven't left a review yet, I encourage you to do that. And I just want to say thank you for doing that on iTunes because it makes this podcast more visible. Well, hey, I'm in my studio here in California, hanging out. I am about to be a father in like 2 to 3 weeks. When this episode actually airs, I may already be a dad, which is just totally crazy. I've been married for over 10 years, and me and my wife just, we're really busy touring the world and traveling and doing ministry stuff. And waited for a while, and it's been awesome because we really got to know each other and are now ready to jump into this world of being parents, and so I'm really, really excited to be able to pour into, my child and be there, and not to get super heavy on you right now, but, some of you know my story. I lost my dad to suicide when I was 5 years old, so the fact that I get to really change my family tree now. I really get to turn things around and invest in my kid and just be there and just love on her. It's just a super, super honor. Besides that, I've been working on the new record, and it is coming along. I got 1 or 2 more songs we're going to record. I can't wait for you guys to hear this thing. We just hit over 27% of our goal for the Pledge Music campaign, where you can pre-order the record. And if you do that, I think if you pledge $10 or more, you get the new album. But plus now I'm giving you guys the Avalanche No Plan B EP. Plus you get the audiobook and ebook of my book Fighter. So $10 or more and you get access to all that. So I think that's pretty dope. Okay, I want to get into some serious action here. Why debt is dumb. We're talking about money here. And, growing up, I didn't get taught a whole lot on money. Schools didn't teach me money. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot taught from my parents, from my mom. And so I was kind of just stuck there trying to figure it out. They didn't give us a lot of direction, unfortunately, in school. And I think they are teaching a little bit more, but not enough. And so I kind of, unfortunately, had to learn the hard way. And I went into debt. I made a lot of silly mistakes. And it's kind of funny looking back. When I was a kid, I remember I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have a line of credit, where I could borrow money. I remember I wanted a video camera to film skateboarding, and I saved and I saved and I saved and I saved all summer, and then I finally bought this video camera. And I was so stoked. I was so, just what a sense of accomplishment when you save for something and then buy it. And I really think we've lost that mentality of the idea of saving for something and having patience. And we just kind of, it's in that mentality of like, just, I get it now. If I want it, I just get it, There's no waiting, there's no patience. It's just like, I want it, okay, I'm getting it. And it's a lot of emotional spending instead of really thinking it over. I don't know if you guys remember those, what were those? They weren't Walkmans, they were like mini discs. It was the Sony mini disc player. And I remember when I went to buy that, I again saved up, and I remember spending cash, and it was a lot of money to me. I think it was like $200-300. And when you pay for things with cash, there's pain. And I remember giving them my money, and then I used this thing for a little bit, and then I realized, you know what, man, I don't really need this, and I returned it because I needed that cash for something that was more important. But I kind of find when you're using credit, there's not as much pain, so you can just kind of jump into it, And when I quit my job to go do music full time, for those who don't know, I was a network engineer for a long time, making like really good money, my own office. It was awesome doing that for a few years. I was really growing in the company as a senior technician. But I quit my job and went on the road to do touring. And all of a sudden there was this pressure, and I needed a new car. Instead of, fixing up the one I had, I just borrowed $20,000 and bought this Pontiac Vibe because, one, I wanted to have a car that was safe on the road, and I didn't want to breaking down. but I just wanted it, And I probably could have just used the car I had, but instead I was just like, no, it's easy. I can borrow the money, just borrow the money, and then go into $20,000 debt and just get really stressed out, And that was a really hard, tough learning lesson. And looking back, it's like, man, I wish I had just waited. I wish I had patience in realizing, that the debt is not a good thing. And I have 4 reasons, I guess you want to call it, why I think debt is dumb. And if if you're not a Christian, I totally get it. But, the Bible has some really cool things to say about this. And in Proverbs 22:7, it says, the borrower is slave to the lender. When you lend someone money, you are in control. You got to pay them back, and there's this pressure, there's this situation where you are the master and they are the slave, because it's just like this, if you ever lent someone money, your friend, all of a sudden there's this kind of like awkwardness, especially if they haven't paid it back right away, and it makes things really uncomfortable. And I've been in that situation where, I've borrowed money, like whether it was the bank or a mortgage, or Visa on credit cards, and there's this pressure of having to pay back. And I always tell artists this all the time. There's nothing that will stress you out more than debt and having that weighing on you when you're trying to create and you're trying to think and you're trying to dream. You have this nagging thing, and it's like you're this slave to it. It causes, they don't tell you about the emotional impacts of that financial pressure of having to pay and it stressing you out and just wearing your body down. And so you really are a slave, not just the physical of paying the money back, but what it does to you emotionally and stresses you out. And I just want to say, I'm not a genius on this, and that's why I'm sharing my mistakes, because I've made many, but I've learned some stuff, and I just want to share it with you guys so that you don't make some of the same mistakes or can help you. And number 2 for me would be, when you're in debt, it's harder to give. It's harder to be generous. And again, I look at that story of the Good Samaritan, and when he found that guy on the side of the road all beat up and hurt and just in a bad place, because he wasn't in debt, he had money to give. And he was able to pay the innkeeper to look after this guy for a couple weeks. Like, can you imagine what that would cost? To do that in our time, to pay for a hotel for a few weeks and hospital bills and all that stuff. But the idea of when you save and you're in a position so that you can give and be more generous, when you're in debt, you just can't do that. Because you know what you're thinking about? You're thinking about yourself, and you're always thinking about your needs and what you need. And so it makes it way harder to be generous. And there's a quote you see, or I hear people say all the time, and they say it in this kind of humble attitude, which just really, irks me, because I just realized how selfish it is. And it's to say that, well, I just need enough for my needs. I don't need a lot of money. I just need enough for me and my family. I'm cool. And it's like, well, what about other people, man? What about if you want to bless people or encourage people and be that blessing, You're always so stoked when someone does it for you, and just so thankful for it. Well, why not you be in that position so that you can give, so that you can be generous? And I got to be honest, the older I get in the position I get into, more that I can give, giving is so much more fun than receiving. I even heard a story about this mother that gave her, let her daughter go shopping one weekend, and they went shopping together, had a good time. But then the following weekend, she gave her daughter money to take out these girls from the shelter and take them shopping and buy food for them and all this stuff and just spend all this money on them and bless them. And then after the 2 weekends, she asked the daughter, she's like, which one did you enjoy more? And she's like, oh, Mom, I loved, the second weekend for sure. When we got to take those girls out, it was so amazing. They hadn't been shopping in forever, and they just loved it. And and they were just like super stoked. And it's just something when you see someone's face light up when you give them something. Like when I can give someone something at the merch table, or we do these contests and how thankful people are, it just does something inside of me that's just like, just blessing people, you're just stoked. And then number 3, man, it's like when you're borrowing debt, or when you're borrowing money and going into debt, what you're doing is practicing not being content. You're practicing non-contentment. Is basically saying, I'm not happy with where I am now, and I need to spend and go into debt to try and be happy and not content with what I have, because that's normally the large percentage of why a lot of us go into debt, is because we're not happy with what we have. We have to have the nicest new this, nicest new that, whether it's car, clothes, music, whatever it is, thinking that we'll be happier, or if we're in a hard emotional state, let's just all go out for dinner. Let's just go spend money on this and think that will fix the issue. And someone once told me, you can't fix a spiritual need with material things, because that's really what it is. It's your spirit that isn't right, and we try and solve it sometimes with material things. And for me, this is going off a little topic a little bit, but I've found myself going and eating emotionally or spending money on food, trying to solve something, to try and make myself feel better. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, after I ate that chocolate or whatever it was, I don't actually feel better anyways. It's more of a different issue. And that's what we do sometimes when we go into debt and spend this money to try and fix that non-contentment. But really what we need to do is just be content and be thankful for what we have. I was sitting with my wife just in the living room one day, and we're just talking and sharing and hanging out. We weren't doing anything special. We're just enjoying each other's company, talking. And I was just like, that's what life's all about, man. That's what it's about, It's just each other. It's relationships. It's family. It's not always money. Yes, money is great, and I am definitely not the poverty mentality. I think money is great so that you can bless other people, so you can give, and I think God wants us to enjoy life. That's what he says in the Bible. I think it's in 1 John. He says, I give you everything richly to enjoy, so that you can enjoy this life and bless. But don't get caught up in the whole money thing is evil. It says it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. We're called to love people. We're called to love God. We're not called to love things. We're called to, like things and enjoy them, but we love God and we love people. And you know what? You can love people by giving and blessing them, and money is just the vehicle to do that. That's what I believe. I believe money is just the vehicle so that you can distribute it and bless people. And I think it's important to have a storehouse and to gather and to save. One quote I heard is that if you cannot save today, the seeds of success are not in you. It is important to save. It is important to have storehouses and to build up so that you can give and bless people. If I was to say what my fourth one was, when you go into debt, and why it's dumb, is because there's risk involved. And again, there's that pressure. When you borrow, especially if you borrow against your house or borrow against your car, something like that, and then you can't pay the bills, they take things away. I've heard stories where people's cars are taken away. I have experienced personally, not me, but having someone have to pack up their house and leave it within a certain amount of time because they're getting kicked out of it. And it was a heart-wrenching experience. I would never wish that upon anyone. And that is the danger of debt, and not being able to pay, especially when you borrow too much. I know some people, say, it's cool to borrow on your mortgage, but if you get a mortgage for your house, which can be a great investment as long as it's not going overboard and you're in a really, good place to pay it off. But this is just the living proof that, there is risk involved when you do that. And you have to be prepared for those risks, and you have to be able to handle the pressure when you're doing that, because there are pressures when you borrow money, believe it or not. So I just encourage you out there, learn to save, learn to be content. Understand that there are consequences, whether they're physical or emotional, when we do that. And again, money is not a bad thing. It's a way you can bless people and a way you can give to people and make a difference. I'm not perfect at it. I'm still learning. And some of the books that just changed my life and where it changed for me, one of them was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he talked about assets versus liabilities, and how a lot of us spend our money on liabilities like cars. Cars don't put money in your pocket. They're an expense. clothes, shoes, whatever, is not an asset. It doesn't put money in your pocket. But when you have something like, a real estate property or a rental, or you have something that's putting money into your pocket that you invest in, whether it's stocks and you're getting paid dividends, or, maybe you own something that you're renting out or leasing to someone, you're making money on it. That is an asset. And he just talked about how consumer debt is not good, and the difference between good and bad debt. And honestly, it's a little controversial on some aspects, because I really just believe, all debt is wrong. But I think it is a really good financial book for anyone to read. I read it when I was in my 20s. I wish I read it when I was a teenager. It changed my life, and it got me really thinking about money, and not just thinking about myself, but planning for the future. Because sometimes we just think, oh, it'll just work out and we'll just, figure it all out. No, it doesn't just happen like that. And all of a sudden you have all this credit card debt and you start borrowing if you don't have a plan. The second book, or just person in my life that really, impacted me, was Peter Daniels. And I heard a seminar he was doing, but he has a book called How to Be Happy Though Rich. And it was a book about giving, and just that we are in debt to love. That's the debt that we're in, to love people and to love and encourage people. That's the debt we have every day, not this debt of money. And again, he just really challenged me to say, you were born in North America, Chris. You were born in, one of the greatest countries, the most, economically fresh, and so much opportunities. And he challenged me just to kind of get my money right and understand that I'm born in one of the greatest economies the world has ever seen. And when I go to meet the Savior, when I die, and he asks me the question, Chris, what did you do while you were down there? What did you do while you were in North America, Canada? I could have put you in it anywhere. I could have put you in a third world country, but I put you in North America. And this is what you did with your life? You didn't do anything great. You didn't save. You didn't bless my kingdom. You have so much opportunity around with you, but you didn't take advantage of it. There's so much potential. There's so much opportunity. And I just, as you're listening to my voice, I just want to say you have so much potential. There's so much on the inside of you to make a difference and to give and to bless and encourage people. And one of the smartest way you can do that is first to not get into debt, but save, build a business, get out there, chase that dream so you can make it happen for other people. I want to leave you with a quote here as we exit out of this podcast, and I hope it's encouraged you. But it just says, it's by Oscar Wilde, and he says, anyone who lives within their means suffers from a lack of imagination. I'm going to say that again. Anyone who lives within their means suffers from a lack of imagination. And what that says to me is it's not about borrowing. It's not about your resources, but your resourcefulness. Don't let wherever your situation is to not have an imagination, to not try and figure it out and make things happen and to go after it, but have that dream, have that big imagination, and then take action. Take action, take action, take action. Action is what fuels success. Taking action is what kicks fear in the face. And action is what puts you another step towards your dreams, man. Well, hey, I am super stoked that you guys joined me on another podcast. I'm a Fighter podcast. Please don't forget to leave a review in iTunes, and so people can see this, so they can check it out. If you haven't checked out the Fighter book online, check that out. But really, you just want to go to manafest.net, so you can go to the pledge campaign, and you pledge $10 or more, and you'll get the new album, you'll get the audiobook, the ebook, and the Avalanche No Plan B EP. Well, hey, I want to remind you guys, man, a fighter isn't someone who never fails. A fighter is someone who never quits. So promise you'll never quit today. Keep going. The song I want to play for you guys is off my album, The Chase, and it's Renegade, featuring my buddy Trevor from 1,000 Foot Crutch.
The days I lost my way and back down. Time I wasted placed you in the background. I can't take it, parade and fake this. Separated dating has got me on the run now. I don't wanna be on the run now. Create a love in me, I put it all down. Shake shake it on the jump now. I'm gonna break it, fade it, put the gun down. Amazing grace, mistakes erased and come round. I'm gonna do what it takes, remain and running the race. Save the race like me, you never let down. I can see the dream, I'll never let drown. I'm not a saint, but hey, I'm up above ground. I'm now awake, I'll chase, I'll never run now.